Hello, everyone. Since the question I get asked the most on stream is some sort of like, I am Diamond 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm trying to make the final push to Legend. I would really like to get it done, but I'm not really sure what deck to use. Could you give me any advice? Um, that's the question I get asked most on stream, so I thought I'd address it, give a little bit of a comprehensive overview over it, and give you a few deck lists that you can try and give you a little bit of reasoning as to why I think these are the best decks to play. And let's just get right into it. And firstly, I wanted to start out by mentioning the decks that are the best in like High Legend, because these decks, they are the best in High Legend, which means that they are the best decks in general, but they have a rather high skill ceiling, and you might not always be able to convert with them. The best deck in the game, I'm pretty sure, is Miracle Rogue. This version in particular is something that I like. If you're playing a little bit at lower ranks where there's more minion-based strategies and less Demon Hunter, I'd personally advise you to take out a Gone Fishing and put in a Surrendered Boat Spike number 2 because it lets you fight for board more aggressively. This is the list that I would personally be playing if I was trying to make it from like Diamond 5 to Legend. But for that one, I would also encourage you to check out the video guide that I made a little bit on it and try improving yourself on the deck list and trying to see if you can get a high win rate. The decks you should be seeing there a lot are Spitter Hunter and Frost DK and some like aggro mages. And the key against those decks is basically just to go all in as early as possible with all your cards, make some really big graveyard ghosts, or just go super wide with like Null and Scribbling. Just like turn 3, 4, you pump out all your stats, and since these decks can't super efficiently handle your things, you get to push damage over multiple turns and they don't get to follow their game plan. So this is the best deck I think you can play, but this will require a lot of time and practice, and it might also not be everybody's playstyle, which is totally fine because not everybody likes the same kind of deck. And then the other deck that's very good in High Legend is Spell Quest Demon Hunter, which does a lot of burst spell damage. I'll try to bring out a guide on how to play that perfectly as well. But I think this deck does a little bit worse on the climb to Legend, simply because there's less rogues to play against and some of the like slower strategies are gone. So I think this one is not that great. I would recommend you to play Miracle Rogue, or if you don't feel super confident with this, a little bit of an improved version here of the Quest Demon Hunter plays a little bit more rush minions. I will link all the deck codes that I think are useful for the climb down below. But I want to just quickly go over to two favorite decks that also have the highest win rate when trying to climb up to Legend, like in the Diamond 5 to Legend ranks, as well as the low Legend ranks. These are usually very good decks if you want to make the final push to get to Legend. They should get you the highest win rate. And those two decks are Spitter Hunter. This is according to stats and Vicious Syndicate and different reports, basically the best list to be able to push the last few bits to Legend because it has a very favorable matchup spread against everything that is slow. But with Trog and some good early game, it still combats your opponents early. The idea here is that on the start, you rely a lot on Iron Deep Trog, which is a very good card against a lot of different decks, especially Demon Hunter and Rogue, because they want to play spells early. And if they can't deal with this early, you're going to be able to go very wide and push a lot of damage, and then you want to stack face damage with your weapons over time, and then finally kill your opponent with Bran Shock Spitter. Bran here doubles your battle cry. You have Shock Spitter, which does 1 damage and gets +1 damage every time you have attacked with any of your weapons with your hero. You can discount this combo using the Battle Ram, but another thing that is super effective and why this deck is so good on the climb to Legend is because the combo of Battle Ram, discounting your next beast by 2 into Hydrolodon, which not a lot of decks can deal with on 5, is super, super powerful. And a lot of the games on these ranks, you're just going to be winning by playing a super early Hydrolodon. And this will be your most effective tool in trying to win those games. You think you mulligan mostly for like the Iron Deep Trog aggressively early, as well as your Spirit Poacher and your Wild Spirits, like your early tempo cards. Those are very useful. And then you try to maybe go Hydrolodon, and if you need to stall out the game, you can do that with Tavish. For example, with the improved Explosive Trap, you can do 3 damage to your opponent's board and generate a little bit more time to get your Shock Spitters online to deal more damage. And if you run into a slow deck, you just, you push damage over time with your weapons, and then you go like Bran, Shock Spitter, Devouring Swarm into one of their minions, then you get the Shock Spitters back to hand, and you can replay them. That at least is the idea of the deck. And then one of the other decks that, if you don't like this Hunter, if you don't have the dust for it and you don't want to craft it, or it's just a playstyle you don't like, I think another deck that I can kind of recommend is the Frost Death Knight. And the reason why I think this can be recommended is because this will have a decent matchup against the Hunter at some point, because you have different ways of freezing their face. You have Icy Touch, and especially you have like Howling Blast. The idea of this deck is you try to play 1-drops early, like Vicious Slither Spear, or of course you try to get mulligan for Harbinger of Winter as a 2-drop. So you try to play your 1 and 2-drops early to grab the board, basically accumulating cards in the meanwhile, and you then duplicate your spells either with like Lady Death Whisper or something else, and then you make a big pop-off turn either with Talnos for spell power or with Death Chiller, and for example Howling Blast. This will work really well with spell power, where you dump a bunch of your damage in your opponent's face. So if you can keep your opponent's development kind of low until turn 7, you can then freeze all their board with Frostworm, and the only thing you have to worry about is like Burst from hand. And so you try to like freeze them a few turns on like 7 and 8, and then on 9 you can often, with Glacial Advances and other Frost cards, you can combo them down. But yeah, against Hunter and against Rogue, you just want to be able to grab the board early with your 1-drops and with your like Harbingers of Winter, and just push a little bit of damage and just try to make sure that you make it easier for you to burst them down the remaining 20 damage with like Glacial Avalanches and things like this, so you don't have to like spend forever time with Frostworms freezing your opponent. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you find these decks useful, especially for Miracle Rogue. I already have a guide up there. I'll link all the deck codes below in the description, the Miracle Rogue guide as well. And if you are interested in learning a little bit about Miracle Rogue, I can recommend you to check out the videos of my stream. I'll link some of them in the description below, but generally if you go to my Twitch channel, I play this deck a lot and I try to explain everything I do. And if you have any further questions, just come to my stream, ask a bunch of questions, why you did this there, why are you making such decisions. If you want to just improve at the deck, I feel like if you master this deck, you're going to be able to get to Legend quite easily. I hope you have a good day, and as always, remember that you're valuable and they matter.